So we see some participants rolling in. We've got Bean, Brandis, Casey, Scott. Hello and welcome. Hello, Mika. We'll give everyone a few more minutes. All right, we're a couple of minutes in, so let's get going. My computer works. There we go. All right, so today's webinar is all about active living. So before we get started, just some quick housekeeping for all of you who are attending. We do have a Q&A box, so feel free to ask questions as we go along. Also in the chat function, before you send the chat, make sure you select all attendees and participants, or otherwise only the panelists will be able to see your chat. As well, we will have some polls that will pop up. So before we begin and before I do an introduction, we'll have some polls that will pop up. Please take a moment to answer them. All right, so before we begin, we just wanted to remind everyone of the rehabilitation advice line that is available to all Albertans. It is a toll-free number that you can call, and they are open 10 to 6 p.m. So moving right along, today's webinar is all about active living and outdoor living. So joining us today, we've got Susanna, who's the Executive Director from Ultimate Wheelchair Sports located in Calgary. We've also got Casey from Paralympic Sports Association located in Edmonton. And then we've got two of our wonderful peers and community members. So we've got Sierra, who's an adapted outdoor enthusiast, who'll be talking about some of the sports that she loves to do outside. As well, we've got Brian from All Around Consulting, and he'll be talking a lot about camping and some of the stuff he loves to do outside. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's get right into it. Sierra, the floor is all yours.
All right, I'll start. Can people hear me? Good, awesome. So I am Susanna. I am with Ultimate Wheelchair Sports. I have a spinal cord injury myself after a spinal infection when I was just 2. I have my degree in adapted sports and I'm a competitive hand cyclist, and I moved from Canada to Norway in 2015. So I've been with Ultimate Wheelchair Sports since then. About Ultimate Wheelchair Sports, our mission is to get more people with disabilities involved in sports and physical activity to lead happy and healthy lives. And we do that by offering a variety of programs in our 4 core sports, which is paracycling, wheelchair racing, cross-country skiing, and alpine skiing. Our biggest program is cycling, and then the 3 others we offer programming as more upon request. We accommodate for mostly physical disabilities, but the majority of our equipment inventory is arm powered. So almost all physical disabilities, like we have people with stroke, muscular dystrophy, MS, and such in our programs, a lot of spinal cord injury, but we unfortunately aren't able to accommodate as much for people that wants to use their legs more. Anyway, we offer programs for all ages. We have a substantial junior program, and I think our oldest member is about 76. We are located in Calgary and offer services to Calgary and surrounding area. Yeah, so here are some pictures of our programs. As you can see, our cycling is very popular, especially the indoor spin just went through the roof this year. Yeah, if you have any questions about this, ask in the Q&A box. Next, thank you, Sarah. Why be physically active? It's important to me to talk about this because I have had people say things like, hey, you know, I'm not really into sports. I like to do arts. So I'm not interested in what you have to offer. And to that, I have some things to say. So when you acquire an injury, your body needs even more consideration and attention than before. That's just the way it is. You need to take really good care of what still works. And that is by doing that, we avoid secondary conditions like physical issues as well as psychological. And I'm sure the people that are listening that have acquired an injury knows very well what I'm talking about. With sport and physical activity, you gain confidence and a feeling of mastery, almost in any sport, if you're instructed well and facilitated for. I often see how people come through our programs early after their injury, sometimes even before they're discharged from the hospital. And they get involved in our programs and adapted sports and physical activity first. And then, because, you know, it's easy, you're welcomed, you're adapted for, there is no requirements and there is no qualifications needed. You can just come, show up, and do the activity and gain confidence. So later, they take all this confidence and self-esteem that they've gained from their sporting or physical activity experiences, and they use it, for example, in a job interview or on a date. Or maybe they use it to travel. So sports really functions as an essential stepping stone in the recovery from acquired injuries. We see that often. In order to maintain a healthy mental state, our bodies needs to be healthy. That's just the way it is. An injury does not make you unhealthy. Your lifestyle is what determines your health. So getting involved in sports is a way of shaping your lifestyle into something healthier. In addition to all of this, sports offers a great social arena where you can experience belongingness and friendships combined with activity and healthy living. You'll meet others that might be in a similar situation that you can share experiences with and learn from. So, hard to argue with all of this. Sports generally attracts positive and engaged individuals, both participants and volunteers, so it's a good place to be. So what I have to say is just like find your activity, find what keeps you moving, find what you enjoy doing so that you'll keep doing it and not stop after 2 weeks. You know, there's a lot of options out there. And if we can't offer the sport or the activity you're looking for, we are very well connected with other adaptive sports organizations like PSA, Paralympic Sports Association, that's going to speak later, and Rocky Mountain Adaptive, that is located out in Canmore and offers lots of programming for people with disabilities, also social distancing friendly programs currently. Yeah, so to come and talk to us and we'll be able to get you to the right organization, sport, or activity. All these organizations are here to limit the barriers for you to get you going. So contact us. I guess there is another slide with some contacts. Yeah, write this down if you need to. Thank you. I think that was all from me.
Thank you, Susanna. So we do have a question just as people are taking down this contact information. So Casey is asking, what's your favorite sport?
Cycling. And cycling, to be more specific.
Yep. All right, so it looks like that's all the questions we have, so let's move on.
Hey, so I'm Casey. I'm a program coordinator with Paralympic Sports Association. I have my degree in kinesiology from the University of Alberta and Adapted. I graduated in 2017 and I did my practicum with PSA and I've been with them ever since. I also have a secondary job with personnel support programs on the military base, so that I'm a fitness supervisor out there. So I obviously like physical activity, promote it, and that's my job and recreation. So next up, our mission. So a little bit about PSA. This is our wordy mission. We're an inclusive organization dedicated to enhancing the well-being of individuals with disabilities and their support networks through adapted recreational and sporting activities. To put that more simply, our goal is to support anyone who wants to participate in sport or recreation. So we work close, we do that by working, we run our own programs, and we also work very closely within a large network of accessible and able-bodied sporting and recreational organizations to deliver our programs. So similar to Wheelchair Sports Alberta and Ultimate Sports in Calgary, that was Susanna earlier, we'll connect people with organizations and resources that are needed to be physically active if we don't offer it ourselves. So we're located in Edmonton, and we are an area, so we serve, we have charters in Medicine Hat, and we do some programming in Red Deer as well. We're largely recreational in nature, so we only offer competitive programming through junior sledge hockey, and that goes in conjunction with Alberta Hockey. So what do we do? We have a large fleet of adapted equipment used for regular scheduled programming, and it's often available for rent. So we have hand cycles, sport chairs, we have a trail rider, adapted rock climbing pulleys, adapted fishing poles. So we have a large resource of adapted equipment that is available to our members. And then we also offer regular scheduled programming. So our regular scheduled programming is just to the right there. Spring and summer, we're starting adapted kayaking tonight. Wednesday is paracycling. We are not offering it this year, but we usually offer adapted golf and we run spring swimming. In the winter, we run an integrated spin class similar to Ultimate Sports, and we run junior sledge hockey, wheelchair floor hockey, indoors swimming, and adapted taekwondo. In addition to those, we do offer the trail rider for rent. We have an adapted rock climbing pulley at Vertically Inclined on the south side. We have the adapted fishing pole. So those all kind of run on request basis, or you can just contact PSA and we'll make a booking for you. And then you can go in and participate on your own, or we usually run a try it just to get people back out and trying some more recreational opportunities. So all abilities are welcome and accommodated. At PSA, a large chunk of our group is spinal cord injuries. We also work very closely with Alberta Cerebral Palsy Sports and many other disability organizations, as well as able-bodied organizations. We partner with them in order to kind of create the transition. So if we don't offer competitive programming and you would enjoy to make the jump into competition, a lot of our able-bodied organizations that we work with who provide our adapted recreational programmings are capable of making the jump into competitive programming if that's where you'd like to go. If not, we offer all of our recreational programming with no competition really. It's just designed to get people out and active. We work with schools, we do sledges in schools, we work with ever active schools. So basically our mandate is truly inclusion, and we'll do whatever we need to and or refer you to wherever we need to. So there's just a couple pictures there of the programming and some of the modifications. There's the sit pulley for rock climbing. Just gives you a bit of an idea as to what's possible with adapted sports programming. Yeah.
All right, Casey, we have some questions for you. So we'll get those answered while people take down your guys' contact info. First question comes from Beto, and his question is, do the support services from PSA have a cost?
To register in our weekly programs, yes. We offer bingos and casinos as well to offset the costs if they're a little overwhelming. Basically, we'll do whatever we need to. We can do installments. The goal is always just to get people active. So there are registration costs, but we'll go out of our way to help make sure that's not a barrier to anyone as well.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Brandis. She's asking, can people from Calgary rent your equipment? And how do they go about getting the rental? Would they have to get it from Edmonton?
That depends on the piece of equipment. So part of the resource sharing that we do between organizations is referrals. So I think Susanna at Ultimate Wheelchair Sports, they can do so. Do you want to hop in, Susanna?
Sure. Yeah, so we would offer equipment rental for cycling, wheelchair racing, skiing, but we wouldn't have, some of the equipment that you were talking about, Casey, like the adapted fishing poles and rock climbing equipment. But yeah, if the equipment that is required is what I just mentioned, then yes, it's available in Calgary.
And then, yeah, otherwise, like, we'd probably just do our best to find it with another organization in Calgary. And if worst case scenario it is to come from Edmonton, then we just try and transport it kind of via members and staff travels. So it's doable for sure if it does need to come from Edmonton.
We have another question that came in from Beto. He's asking, do any of these programs actively collaborate with any health providers?
Not ours specifically. So ours, we do partnership with the Glenrose, so they'll bring us in and we'll bring out the hand cycles. So if it's a recent injury and somebody would like to try a hand cycle, they contact us and we'll bring a hand cycle in. and then we'll work with them to make the modifications that are needed on the cycle. Otherwise, they're solely run, most of them are solely run by PSA. Alberta Cerebral Palsy, our kind of counterpart partner organization in Edmonton. They run power soccer out of the Glenrose, I believe. So they're considered more of a direct partner. If that helps.
Yeah. We do use healthcare providers mostly as like recruitment persons. So yeah, we would also have contact with the Foothills Hospital, the Children's Hospital, lots of like the CAR program here, so recreational therapists, social workers, any in that field, physiotherapists, yeah, they would send people our way, and they would usually also come and attend a session and maybe also participate. Yeah, so that's how we're involved with healthcare workers, providers.
Thank you, Casey and Susanna. Just a comment that came in our chat box was that Rocky Mountain Adaptive will also rent out equipment from Canmore, which is a lot closer to Calgary.
Yes.
And for now, those are all the questions we have, so let's move right along.
Hello, my name is Brian Natchu, and I'm a T6 complete paraplegic. I was injured in a motorcycle accident in 2015, and I'm going to be talking today about spinal cord injury outdoor recreation. So to start, I'll just briefly go through my education. After high school, I went to NAIT for a personal fitness training diploma, where we learn all about the body, how the body works, all the muscles and bones, and all kinds of different training techniques, personal training, one-on-one training, team training, all kinds of fun stuff like that. After that, I went on to ESA, Emergency Services Academy, for my firefighter training and emergency medical response. So I do have a background in emergency services. And then in 2015, I had my spinal cord injury, and that kind of refocused my education goals. I started with my certified coaching, learning how to do a lot of goal setting, one-on-one training again, but more mental focus as opposed to body focus. Then I continued on to Lakeline College, training as an educational assistant, where I'm currently employed with Edmonton Catholic Schools as an EA, working with children with cognitive disabilities. And I'm currently in my final year of my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology at Concordia. And after I complete that, I should be continuing with an after education degree. So next, I'll talk briefly about my work experience. Right now, I'm with All Around Consulting. We do a lot of business consulting and one-on-one goal setting, public speaking, and all kinds of fun stuff. I have a lot of background in oil and gas, emergency services. And like I said, I'm currently working as an EA with Catholic schools, doing tutoring with children, and I also touch with property management, long-term and short-term with Airbnb. So before my injury, one of my favorite sports was basketball. And I thought after my injury, I would really enjoy that as well. But it turns out I didn't like it. It was really hard. It just wasn't for me. What I did find was Shotput, Javelin, and Discus, all seated throw events. And I tried many sports, but everyone has their own personal interests and their own areas of expertise. And I found that cycling just wasn't for me, and Shotput was. So everyone's different, and you got to find what works for you, right? So before my injury, I had a lot of outdoor camping time, a lot of hiking, mountain biking, downhill riding, all kinds of stuff like that. And after my injury, I thought, how am I ever going to get back into camping and get back into enjoying the outdoors? Because a lot of that area isn't necessarily deemed accessible. So I just kind of figured it out as I went along. Do you want to go to the next slide for me? So this here is a picture of a truck and trailer that I use and an ATV that I use. I have a set of travel hand controls that can be put into any vehicle, so I can drive both of these vehicles without any issue. The toy hauler I have there, the bay door comes down in the back, so I can use it for wheelchair access, and I can load the ATV in the back. So with this, I typically go out to Crown Land areas to go camping where there's no set campsites. It's just kind of wherever you go pick your spot, and there'll be no power or no amenities at all. So I'm actually quite pleased with how it's turned out. And it just kind of, I haven't met too many other people in a wheelchair or with any type of disabilities that go out there, but it can be done. Here are some other outdoor activities I've enjoyed since my injury. There's a photo of me in the hot springs there, right around, I think it's just past Banff. There's a good hot springs that's fully wheelchair accessible. They have a pool wheelchair and a ramp that you can go right in and then float off and enjoy the heat. I use a Baytech wheelchair front powered attachment, which you can see in this picture here. I use it for trail riding, and you can see above, it actually manages quite well on a dirt trail as well. And that's something that you wouldn't typically try to venture off in just a manual wheelchair. It might be a little bit too difficult, but with all kinds of aids and power attachments, anything is possible, right? Here's another picture is me doing some target shooting out on Crown Land, some kayaking in Kelowna, and I actually did a bungee jump there out at Whistler Bungee. So all these activities are available for people with disabilities to make inclusive for everyone, right? Next, I'll talk briefly about my Javelin and Discus. I got started with it with Wheelchair Sports Alberta. Their logo is actually, I believe, a guy doing a shot put, which was interesting. Yeah, you basically sit on a platform and hold onto a pole for support if you don't have trunk stabilization or core function. And then you're throwing implements, the shot put, javelin, and discus. You get a minute break in between, and you get 6 tries, and it's just the best of 6. I was actually lucky enough to get to travel to Ottawa. That's where this picture was taken, at the Canadian National Track and Field competition, which was really cool. And I just wanted to touch on classification categories for different types of injuries. I myself am a T6, so that's a F54 class. So I was actually able to set 3 distance records for F54 athletes, whereas someone with a different level of injury or someone with cerebral palsy or MS, we're all still competing against each other, but we all have different classification categories. So you can still excel in your own category, even if you're not on the top of the podium. But in conclusion, I just like to say that outdoor recreation is definitely very important. It'll increase your morale and boost your self-confidence. It's best to get out there and try it. And there's lots of campground areas around Edmonton and Calgary that do offer some wheelchair accessible bathrooms and power and water on site. So if you're ever considering trying it out, I would say go for it. And thanks for listening.
Thank you, Brian. We have a question that came in. And the question is, what were the key factors for your success in returning to meaningful recreational activities?
Basically finding somewhere where I could excel and feel comfortable. I tried all kinds of different sports. I tried cycling, which I just didn't quite enjoy. I tried boat rowing, which was very fun, but it was really difficult and also seasonal. So it's all about where you're going to fit in and what interests you, right? Because someone might not like myself, I didn't enjoy wheelchair basketball anymore. It wasn't really for me, but a lot of people still really do. So it's just finding what fits for yourself, because every disability is so unique in its own way, right?
Perfect, thank you. And a question that had come in prior to the webinar was about power. And the question was, what do you use for power throughout the night while you're out camping?
Like I said, when I go camping, I go to Crownland area typically where there isn't any hookups. So we bring a 2000 watt generator with us that can charge our batteries if they ended up getting out of juice. But lots of campgrounds do have power on site that you can plug right into.
Perfect, thank you. Those are all the questions we have for now. Sierra, it's all yours.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Sierra. Very similar background and injuries as Brian, actually. So I have a T6 complete injury from a motocross accident. And so after that, I was in high school. So I finished high school and decided to go into kinesiology. And so I'm almost done that. And then I will be also just finished my certification in personal training. So I'll be starting that up and hopefully getting other people outdoors. I really struggled with getting outdoors and kind of getting back to the lifestyle I had. So I really am on a mission to be outside as much as possible, be as active as much as possible, but then also help other people. So I'm hoping that some of these pictures and stuff can give you a little idea of how to do that. I just wanted to get an idea here that I also tried out a bunch of stuff. So I tried a ton of different things with the Paralympic Sports Association here in Edmonton. And I also did a little bit with Rocky Mountain Adaptive to get to doing some downhill skiing. Rocky Mountain Adaptive is really good too, because you can go out there and they'll send out a volunteer if you want, and you can rent the equipment and just go with your family, or you can take lessons. And so, I mean, downhill skiing is really daunting to a lot of people. So having those volunteers there and having instructors is really helpful. So it's definitely something that if you get a bunch of people to help you and support you in those areas, it's a lot easier to manage. I also have done wheelchair racing with the Stedward Center because I was going to school there. It was really easy to access. But recently I've converted over to rowing, and I guess my one thing to say with all these different sport organizations is if you have an interest in a sport after trying everything, which I highly recommend, like Brian was saying, is try everything that you can. When you have maybe a desire to go into sports, you can contact any of the sporting organizations or the Paralympic Canada, and they will help you get set up. They're open arms on letting you come and try stuff, kind of getting to know the environment, because it can be a lot really daunting. But I have nothing but good support when it comes to that, so I definitely encourage you, if you have an interest, to just go out and try stuff. As I mentioned, I was into motocross, so I actually adapted my bike. That was the first thing I wanted to do. It's not for everyone, obviously. It's definitely something that if you were doing it before, maybe it's a good idea to try, but I just have some pictures here on how to adapt it, basically. So I have people help me get on and off, usually 2 people. And then I have, as you can see in the second picture, an adapted seat that I got from an upholstery guy that helped me adapt just a regular seat that's on a dirt bike, and you just put some foam in here. And then I also have this leg bar that goes over, that was welded on to my foot pegs. And then there's straps that I'll put my feet into place on the foot pegs, and then a strap that goes over my waist to hold me in place. I also had an automatic clutch put into it. And there's different ways you can do a shifting mechanism, but if you're riding like a 4-stroke, which is usually recommended for an adaptive rider, you can just click it into a gear and leave it at that. But I mean, in this one picture, you can kind of see a handlebar that was welded on. So I had like a shifting mechanism, but I mean, it didn't work great, but we were just trying things out. So yeah, there's a lot that you can adapt. And so I guess here, I just wanted to emphasize that if there's things that you want to try that no one else is doing, there are definitely things that you can use to help make those things adapted. Social media is a powerful thing, and so that's a lot of these ideas came from social media and contacting other people, especially in the States. There's a couple people that ride, so I was able to contact them, and we're always so willing to help answer any questions and things that didn't work. And it's definitely useful when you're putting money into things to learn what didn't work for other people, especially your injury level. That might also be a key factor into how you adapt things. So I guess I just wanted to mention too is to get creative and be open to exploring. I came from a place of a lot of privilege, so I was able to adapt these things. But simple things like my brother, we were living on an acreage at the time, and so he threw me into a calf sled and he can pull me around the acreage all winter long, and we can get around way easier that way. Duct tape can go a long way. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this, but I saw a video of a lady who duct taped herself to one of her sons to go surfing. And so that was kind of how that got inspired. So I can go out with friends and go to a certain place and they just duct tape me. Not recommended, but it's just other ways that you can make things adaptive. Brian talks a lot about camping. I just camp out of my car. And I've been able to do that independently now, and it came from a lot of trial and error and practice. But if you go with people that are open to helping you and open to finding different ways to do things, it's always possible, as well as reaching out to people like me or Brian on how to do those types of things. So I got into rowing, and not a lot of people know about rowing, especially in Edmonton, because we don't really have a program here. But just quickly, Rowing Canada has started opening up their program more because not a lot of people are involved. So if you were to ever go into rowing competitively, just for interest's sake, there's 3 categories. So PR1s, as you can see on the top picture, is just arms and shoulders. So you don't have any trunk function. So that would be me at a T6 level. So I get strapped in, you can see, at the chest and at the hips, and my seat doesn't slide and I have a backrest, as well as my legs get strapped in. So I just use my arms and shoulders. As for PR2s, they have trunk control, and so they use their arms, shoulders, and trunk, but their seats don't slide because they're limited in their leg function. But the only problem with that is if they want to go to the Paralympics, they have to be in a mixed boat with a man and a woman. So for Rowing Canada, that makes it a little hard on trying to find people with the same type of strength, but yes. And then PR3, they're fully able to use their arms, legs, and trunk, and their seats slide. They will have some type of limitation, as well as visual impairs. Individuals, they will also be in that boat, but it's a boat of 4, and they are also mixed, so that makes it difficult for Rowing Canada to find athletes. So here's a picture just quickly of me in the boat. When it comes to rowing, I know Calgary has a good para program, but Edmonton does not right now. There's only me in a wheelchair and one other girl who can walk a little bit. So the rowing club isn't completely accessible, but we make do with it. With that being said, if you know there is a rowing club nearby, contact them and ask if you can try. Rowing Canada has some equipment kind of spread out all over Canada now, so you might actually have an adapted boat nearby. And if not, contact me and I can help get you organized with that. But in terms of getting into the boat, we have to go down this really steep hill. So I have people that bring my boat down and all my equipment. The team in Edmonton is really great with doing that. And then I transfer down to the dock, and I have a pad that I transfer to prevent pressure sores. And then I transfer into the boat. And it's same setup as it was on the erg in those last pictures. But the only difference here is that you have buoys on the side to help with balance. And so this is really for only PR1s, and it's super good because it helps with the stability, because obviously I don't have a lot of balance. So all PR1s will have that. And then anything else adapted is just, I guess, put a foam roller under my legs to keep them in place. And then your feet get strapped in. And then same with the leg straps and chest straps. But I guess I didn't know rowing existed until I was at the U of A, and Rowing Canada found out that I was trying other sports. So I row on the North Saskatchewan River. It's not the most ideal thing, but I know in Calgary they row on the reservoir, and so that's a little more wheelchair friendly too. But yeah, definitely, if you're interested in rowing, get a hold of me and I can help you get in touch with that. But all else I want to say is I agree with what everyone else is saying. It's super important for all of us to get active, and so try everything and reach out to anyone, especially other peers, because we've tried a lot of things and we kind of know the ins and outs on who to contact and maybe some things that might help you be more successful, I guess, in some of these sports, because I do know when I started, sports was very overwhelming. There's a lot of things that you can do, a lot of things you can adapt, and they're not easy things to try. So definitely get out there, try anything and anything that you can put your mind to. And I mean, it's going to be so important for your health in the long run, but definitely for mentally, it's a huge, huge thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Sierra. So we do have a question that came in, and it's for both Brian and Sierra. And the question is, what does doing all these activities influence on your sense of self and your quality of life? And in your perspective, what are the advantages of living in an active life like yourself?
Yeah, so for me, I guess it was really important to get active because I was active previously. And so in terms of for self, I think it's really important. It shows that you are independent and you are able to do these things, especially the environment I found in terms of sports. It's a lot of like-minded people that have gone through similar things. So being able to meet those other people was really good.
Thank you, Sierra. Brian, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I would say finding a sense of community is big, right? Because being involved in team sports or even solo sports, there's still a sense of community that goes along with it, and a group of peers that are a group of like-minded people, right?
Perfect, thank you. Those seem to be all the questions that we have. I know we had a comment come in just letting everyone know that the Wolverines Adapted Association in Grand Prairie also works with some adaptive sports. So if you're up north, they are also a great resource. And I'm just going to share. Sarah, can I swap you and share my screen instead? And just a reminder to everybody about the rehabilitation advice line that is available. There we go. So the rehabilitation advice line is available to everyone in Alberta, and they help with a variety of things. Just a reminder that this webinar will be rebroadcasted on our YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email Steve. Our next webinar is usually in 2 weeks. However, we have a long weekend coming up, so our next one will be on August the 10th. I'd like to thank all of our presenters who presented today. If there are any other questions, please feel free to ask. We do have some time left, so if there are any other questions, please feel free to share them either in the Q&A or in the chat box. And I'm not seeing anything come up. We'll give everyone a few more seconds just to get their questions in. We don't have a question, but we do have some comments that came in, so great presentation. Another comment that came in was congratulating all of you on your achievements. Another question that came in, will there be something about camping down the road? Can you elaborate on that question? Give them a second to type out their answer. Presenters, was there anything else that you wanted to add? Okay, so the question that came in was, what's the best way to find out about accessible camping? What are the tricks of the trade? And where to find accessible rentals for RVs? Brian, can you maybe address that?
I would say just call the campground coordinator of where you're thinking of going. Ask them if they have accessible washrooms on site or if they have power on site. And other than that, it's really just kind of trial by fire, to be honest. I've been to a few places that it turned out to be a pretty sloped area or something that wasn't a place that I would go again, but it's somewhere that I know that to stay away from for next time. So it's a lot of it is learning as you go and figuring it out on the fly, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tanel Bolt out of Invermere, BC is starting the Rad Society. She's working on a trailer that'll be accessible to rent. Frontier, I know, does accessible motorhomes and stuff, but it's really hard to book them. So, I mean, there is a couple places that do rentals for RVs, but they're really hard to find. So you're almost better getting a hold of people like Brian and I to figure out how to make things work for you.
Another question that just came in was, is there a website with recommended camping sites for people in wheelchairs?
I don't think so. Maybe Brian and I should put one together.
It might be something to think about starting, yeah, because I don't think that exists yet. So.
And another comment that just came in was that William Watson's Lodge also offers accessible camping, and to check out their website.
William Watson lodges are also very inexpensive for people with disabilities. Beautiful.
Someone has
for
said
Preston for
Alberta
skiing
Parks
and
registration online is a good place to go.
Perfect. So it doesn't look like we had any other questions. So thank you again to all of our presenters, and we will see you all